Welcome to Jesus Leads, where we embark on a deep and meaningful journey through the Bible. In today's video, we continue our exploration of the book of Judges. In this session, we'll read chapters 11 to 21, covering key events that highlight Israel's struggles, moral challenges, and the consequences of disobedience during this turbulent time. As we dive into these chapters, we'll witness the story of Jephthah's vow, Samson's rise and fall, and the tragic civil war between the tribes of Israel. From the brutal conflicts to the steps taken to restore the tribe of Benjamin, we see how Israel's journey reveals the need for true leadership and the importance of faithfulness to God. Sit back and reflect on these powerful stories from the book of Judges, and remember to subscribe to Jesus Leads for more inspiring Bible readings and reflections. Let's begin this part of our journey together. Chapter 11. Jephthah's vow and victory over the Ammonites. Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty warrior. His father was Gilead, but his mother was a prostitute. Gilead's wife also bore him sons, and when they grew up, they drove Jephthah away. They said to him, "You are not going to get any inheritance in our family, because you are the son of another woman." So Jephthah fled from his brothers and settled in the land of Tob, where a group of adventurers gathered around him and followed him. Sometime later, when the Ammonites made war on Israel, the elders of Gilead went to get Jephthah from the land of Tob. They said, "Come, be our commander, so we can fight the Ammonites." Jephthah answered, "Didn't you hate me and drive me from my father's house? Why do you come to me now when you are in trouble?" The elders of Gilead said to him, "Nevertheless, we are turning to you now. Come with us to fight the Ammonites, and you will be head over all of us who live in Gilead." Jephthah answered, "Suppose you take me back to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gives them to me. Will I really be your head?" The elders of Gilead replied, "The Lord is our witness. We will certainly do as you say." So Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and commander over them. And he repeated all his words before the Lord in Mizpah. Jephthah made a vow to the Lord, "If you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me, when I return in triumph from the Ammonites, will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering." Then Jephthah went over to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gave them into his hands. He devastated 20 towns from Aroer to the vicinity of Minnith, as far as Abel-Keramim. Thus Israel subdued Ammon. When Jephthah returned to his home in Mizpah, who should come out to meet him but his daughter, dancing to the sound of timbrels? She was an only child. Except for her, he had neither son nor daughter. When he saw her, he tore his clothes and cried, "Oh no, my daughter! You have brought me down and I am devastated. I have made a vow to the Lord that I cannot break." "My father," she replied, "you have given your word to the Lord. Do to me just as you promised, now that the Lord has avenged you of your enemies, the Ammonites. But grant me this one request. Give me 2 months to roam the hills and weep with my friends, because I will never marry." "You may go," he said, and he let her go for 2 months. She and her friends went into the hills and wept because she would never marry. After the 2 months, she returned to her father, and he did to her as he had vowed, and she was a virgin. From this comes the Israelite custom that each year the young women of Israel go out for 4 days to commemorate the daughter of Jephthah the Gileadite. In this chapter, Jephthah, a mighty warrior, is initially rejected by his family due to his illegitimate birth, but he is later called upon by the elders of Gilead to lead Israel in battle against the Ammonites. Jephthah makes a vow to the Lord, promising to sacrifice whatever first comes out of his house if God grants him victory. God gives him victory over the Ammonites, but when Jephthah returns home, his daughter, his only child, comes out to greet him. In fulfillment of his vow, Jephthah sacrifices his daughter. This chapter highlights the complexities of vows, faith, and the consequences of promises made to God. Chapter 12. Jephthah's conflict with the Ephraimites and his death. The men of Ephraim were called to arms, and they crossed over to Zaphon. They said to Jephthah, "Why did you go to fight the Ammonites without calling us to go with you? We are going to burn down your house over your head." Jephthah answered, "I and my people were engaged in a great struggle with the Ammonites, and although I called you, You didn't save me out of their hands. When I saw that you wouldn't help, I took my life in my hands and crossed over to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gave me the victory over them. Now why have you come up today to fight me?" Jephthah then called together the men of Gilead and fought with Ephraim. The Gileadites struck down the Ephraimites because the Ephraimites had said, "You Gileadites are renegades from Ephraim and Manasseh." The Gileadites captured the fords of the Jordan leading to Ephraim, and whenever a fugitive from Ephraim said, "Let me cross over," the men of Gilead asked him, "Are you an Ephraimite?" If he replied, "Oh no," they said, "All right, say Shibboleth." If he said Sibboleth, because he could not pronounce the word correctly, they seized him and killed him at the fords of the Jordan. 42,000 Ephraimites were killed at that time. Jephthah led Israel for 6 years. Then Jephthah died and was buried in a town in Gilead. After him, Ibzan of Bethlehem led Israel. He had 30 sons and 30 daughters. He gave his daughters in marriage to those outside his clan, and for his sons he brought in 30 young women as wives from outside his clan. Ibzan led Israel 7 years. Then Ibzan died and was buried at Bethlehem. After him, Elon the Zebulunite led Israel. He led Israel 10 years. Then Elon died and was buried in Ajalon in the land of Zebulun. After him, Abdon son of Hillel from Pirathon led Israel. He had 40 sons and 30 grandsons who rode on 70 donkeys. He led Israel 8 years. Then Abdon son of Hillel died and was buried at Pirathon in the land of Ephraim, in the hill country of the Amalekites. In this chapter, Jephthah faces conflict with the Ephraimites, who accuse him of not calling them to battle against the Ammonites. This disagreement leads to a bloody civil war between the Gileadites and Ephraimites, in which 42,000 Ephraimites are killed. After Jephthah's leadership ends, Israel is led by a series of judges, Ibzan, Elon, and Abdon, who each served for several years. The chapter shows the internal struggles Israel faced during the time of the judges, as well as the division and tension between tribes before each judge's death. Chapter 13. The birth of Samson. Again the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, so the Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. A certain man of Zorah, named Manoah, from the clan of the Danites, had a wife who was childless, unable to give birth. The angel of the Lord appeared to her and said, "You are barren and childless, but you are going to become pregnant and give birth to a son. Now see to it that you drink no wine or other fermented drink, and that you do not eat anything unclean. You will become pregnant and have a son whose head is never to be touched by a razor, because the boy is to be a Nazirite, dedicated to God from the womb. He will take the lead in delivering Israel from the hands of the Philistines." Then the woman went to her husband and told him, "A man of God came to me. He looked like an angel of God, very awesome. I didn't ask him where he came from, and he didn't tell me his name. But he said to me, 'You will become pregnant and have a son. Now then, drink no wine or other fermented drink, and do not eat anything unclean, because the boy will be a Nazirite, dedicated to God from the womb until the day of his death.' Then Manoah prayed to the Lord, 'Pardon your servant, Lord. I beg you to let the man of God you sent to us come again to teach us how to bring up the boy who is to be born.' God heard Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman while she was out in the field. But her husband Manoah was not with her. The woman hurried to tell her husband, 'He's here, the man who appeared to me the other day.' Manoah got up and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he said, 'Are you the one who talked to my wife?' 'I am,' he said. So Manoah asked him, 'When your words are fulfilled, what is to be the rule that governs the boy's life and work?' The angel of the Lord answered, 'Your wife must do all that I have told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, nor drink any wine or other fermented drink, nor eat anything unclean. She must do everything I have commanded her.' Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, 'We would like you to stay until we prepare a young goat for you.' The angel of the Lord replied, 'Even though you detain me, I will not eat any of your food. But if you prepare a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord.' Manoah did not realize that it was the angel of the Lord. Then Manoah inquired of the angel of the Lord, "What is your name, so that we may honor you when your word comes true?" He replied, "Why do you ask my name? It is beyond understanding." Then Manoah took a young goat, together with the grain offering, and sacrificed it on a rock to the Lord. And the Lord did an amazing thing while Manoah and his wife watched. As the flame blazed up from the altar toward the sky, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame. Seeing this, Manoah and his wife fell with their faces to the ground. When the angel of the Lord did not show himself again to Manoah and his wife, Manoah realized that it was the angel of the Lord. "We are doomed to die," he said to his wife. "We have seen God." But his wife answered, "If the Lord had meant to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and grain offering from our hands, nor shown us all these things, or now told us this." The woman gave birth to a boy and named him Samson. He grew, and the Lord blessed him, and the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him while he was in Mahane-Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. Chapter 13 introduces the birth of Samson, a significant figure in the book of Judges. After 40 years of oppression under the Philistines, God sends an angel to Manoah and his wife, who had been unable to have children, announcing the birth of Samson. The angel gives them specific instructions for raising Samson as a Nazirite, dedicated to God. Manoah and his wife follow the angel's guidance, and after the miraculous appearance of the angel ascending in the flame of the sacrifice, they realize they have encountered a divine messenger. Samson is born, and the Spirit of the Lord begins to stir him, setting the stage for his future role as a deliverer of Israel. Chapter 14, Samson's marriage to a Philistine woman. Samson went down to Timnah and saw there a young Philistine woman. When he returned, he said to his father and mother, "I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife." His father and mother replied, "Isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife?" But Samson said to his father, "Get her for me. She's the right one for me." His parents did not know that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines, for at that time they were ruling over Israel. Samson went down to Timnah, together with his father and mother. As they approached the vineyards of Timnah, suddenly a young lion came roaring toward him. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him, so that he tore the lion apart with his bare hands as he might have torn a young goat. But he told neither his father nor his mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and he liked her. Sometime later, when he went back to marry her, he turned aside to look at the lion's carcass. In it was a swarm of bees and some honey. He scooped out the honey with his hands and ate as he went along. When he rejoined his parents, he gave them some, and they too ate it. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey from the lion's carcass. Now his father went down to see the woman, and there Samson held a feast, as was customary for young men. When the people saw him, they chose 30 men to be his companions. "Let me tell you a riddle," Samson said to them. "If you can give me the answer within the 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. But if you can't tell me the answer, you must give me 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes." "Tell us your riddle," they said. "Let's hear it." He replied, "Out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet." For 3 days they could not give the answer. On the 4th day they said to Samson's wife, "Coax your husband into explaining the riddle for us, or we will burn you and your father's household to death. Did you invite us here to steal our property?" Then Samson's wife threw herself on him, sobbing, "You hate me. You don't really love me. You have given my people a riddle, and you haven't told me the answer." "I haven't even told my father or mother," he replied, "so why should I tell you?" She cried the whole 7 days of the feast. So on the 7th day he finally told her, because she continued to press him. She in turn explained the riddle to her people. Before sunset on the 7th day, the men of the town said to him, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" Samson said to them, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle." Then the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. He went down to Ashkelon, struck down 30 of their men, stripped them of everything, and gave their clothes to those who had explained the riddle. Burning with anger, he returned to his father's home, and Samson's wife was given to one of his companions who had attended him at the feast. In this chapter, Samson, guided by the Lord's purpose, chooses a Philistine woman from Timnah to be his wife, despite his parents' objections. On his way to meet her, Samson experiences a miraculous encounter with a lion, which he kills with his bare hands, though he does not tell his parents. At his wedding feast, Samson presents a riddle to his guests, which they are unable to solve. Under pressure from his wife, who is threatened by the Philistines, he reveals the answer. Enraged by the betrayal, Samson kills 30 men from Ashkelon to fulfill his wager, and his wife is given to one of his companions. The chapter sets the stage for the ongoing conflict between Samson and the Philistines. Chapter 15, Samson's vengeance on the Philistines. Later on, at the time of wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat and went to visit his wife. He said, "I'm going to my wife's room." But her father would not let him go in. "I was sure you hated her," he said, "so I gave her to your companion. Isn't her younger sister more attractive? Take her instead." Samson said to them, "This time I have a right to get even with the Philistines. I will really harm them." So he went out and caught 300 foxes and tied them tail to tail in pairs. He then fastened a torch to every pair of tails, lit the torches, and let the foxes loose in the standing grain of the Philistines. He burned up the shocks and standing grain, together with the vineyards and olive groves. When the Philistines asked, "Who did this?" they were told, "Samson, the Timnite's son-in-law, because his wife was given to his companion." So the Philistines went up and burned her and her father to death. Samson said to them, "Since you have acted like this, I won't stop until I get my revenge on you." He attacked them viciously and struck them with great blows. Then he went down and stayed in a cave in the rock of Abdon. The Philistines went up and camped in Judah, spreading out near Lehi. The people of Judah asked, "Why have you come to fight us?" "We have come to take Samson prisoner," they answered, "to do to him as he did to us." Then 3,000 men from Judah went down to the cave in the rock of Abdon and said to Samson, "Don't you realize that the Philistines are rulers over us? What have you done to us?" He answered, "I merely did to them what they did to me." They said to him, "We've come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines." Samson said, "Swear to me that you won't kill me yourselves." "Agreed," they answered. "We will only tie you up and hand you over to them. We will not kill you." So they bound him with 2 new ropes and led him up from the rock. As he approached Lehi, the Philistines came toward him shouting. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. The ropes on his arms became like charred flax, and the bindings dropped from his hands. Finding a fresh jawbone of a donkey, he grabbed it and struck down 1,000 men. Then Samson said, "With a donkey's jawbone, I have made donkeys of them. With a donkey's jawbone, I have killed 1,000 men." When he finished speaking, he threw away the jawbone, and the place was called Ramath Lehi. Because he was very thirsty, he cried out to the Lord, "You have given your servant this great victory. Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised?" Then God opened up the hollow place in Lehi, and water came out of it. When Samson drank, his strength returned, and he revived. So the spring was called En-Hakkore, and it is still there in Lehi. Samson led Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines. In chapter 15, Samson takes revenge on the Philistines after his wife is given to another man. He catches 300 foxes, ties them together with torches, and sets them loose to destroy the Philistine grain fields. In retaliation, the Philistines burn Samson's wife and her father. Samson then attacks the Philistines, and they retaliate by gathering an army to confront him. The men of Judah, fearing the Philistines, come to Samson and promise not to harm him if he surrenders. Samson agrees, and as they bring him to the Philistines, the Spirit of the Lord empowers him, and he defeats 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of a donkey. Afterward, God provides water for Samson, restoring his strength. Samson leads Israel for 20 years, continuing his struggles with the Philistines. Chapter 16, Samson and Delilah. One day Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute. He went in to spend the night with her. The people of Gaza were told, "Samson is here." So they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the city gate. They made no move during the night, saying, "At dawn we'll kill him." But Samson lay there only until the middle of the night. Then he got up and took hold of the doors of the city gate, together with the 2 posts, and tore them loose, bar and all. He lifted them to his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. Sometime later, he fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. The rulers of the Philistines went to her and said, "See if you can lure him into showing you the secret of his great strength and how we can overpower him, so we may tie him up and subdue him. Each one of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver." So Delilah said to Samson, "Tell me the secret of your great strength and how you can be tied up and subdued." Samson answered her, "If anyone ties me with 7 fresh thongs that have not been dried, I'll become as weak as any other man." Then the rulers of the Philistines brought her 7 fresh thongs that had not been dried, and she tied him with them. With men hidden in the room, she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." But he snapped the thongs as easily as a piece of string snaps when it comes close to a flame. So the secret of his strength was not discovered. Then Delilah said to Samson, "You have made a fool of me. You lied to me. Come now, tell me how you can be tied." He said, "If anyone ties me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I'll become as weak as any other man." So Delilah took new ropes and tied him with them. Then she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." But he broke the ropes off his arms as if they were threads. Delilah then said to Samson, "Until now you have been making a fool of me and lying to me. Tell me how you can be tied." He replied, "If you weave the 7 braids of my head into the fabric on the loom and tighten it with the pin, I'll become as weak as any other man." So while he slept, Delilah took the 7 braids of his head, wove them into the fabric, and tightened it with the pin. Again she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He awoke from his sleep and pulled up the pin and the loom with the fabric. Then she said to him, "How can you say, 'I love you,' when you won't confide in me? This is the 3rd time you have made a fool of me and haven't told me the secret of your great strength." With such nagging, she prodded him day after day until he was tired to death. So he told her everything. "No razor has ever been used on my head," he said, "because I have been a Nazirite dedicated to God from my mother's womb. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man." When Delilah saw that he had told her everything, she sent word to the rulers of the Philistines, "Come back once more. He has told me everything." So the rulers of the Philistines returned with the silver in their hands. After putting him to sleep on her lap, Delilah called for someone to shave off the 7 braids of his hair, and so began to subdue him, and his strength left him. Then she called, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He awoke from his sleep and thought, "I'll go out as before and shake myself free." But he did not know that the Lord had left him. Then the Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him down to Gaza. Binding him with bronze shackles, they set him to grinding grain in the prison. But the hair on his head began to grow again after it had been shaved. Now the rulers of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon their god, and to celebrate, saying, "Our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hands." When the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, "Our God has delivered our enemy into our hands, the one who laid waste our land and multiplied our slain." While they were in high spirits, they shouted, "Bring out Samson to entertain us." So they called Samson out of the prison, and he performed for them. When they stood him among the pillars, Samson said to the servant who held his hand, "Put me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple, so that I may lean against them." Now the temple was crowded with men and women. All the rulers of the Philistines were there, and on the roof were about 3,000 men and women watching Samson perform. Then Samson prayed to the Lord, "Sovereign Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just once more, and let me with one blow get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." Then Samson reached toward the 2 central pillars on which the temple stood, bracing himself against them, his right hand on the one and his left hand on the other. Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." Then he pushed with all his might, and down came the temple on the rulers and all the people in it. Thus he killed many more when he died than while he lived. Then his brothers and his father's whole family went down to get him. They brought him back and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of Manoah his father. He had led Israel for 20 years. In chapter 16, Samson's strength is betrayed by Delilah, who repeatedly tries to discover the secret of his power. Eventually, Samson reveals that his strength is tied to his hair, which has never been cut as part of his Nazirite vow. Delilah betrays him, and the Philistines capture him. They gouge out his eyes and imprison him, but his hair begins to grow back. During a Philistine celebration, Samson, empowered by God, destroys the temple of Dagon, killing more Philistines in his death than in his life. The chapter highlights Samson's tragic downfall, his final act of faith, and the redemption he found in trusting God once more. Chapter 17, Micah and the Levite. Now a man named Micah from the hill country of Ephraim said to his mother, "The 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from you, and about which I heard you utter a curse. At that time I took them. I have them now." His mother said, "The Lord bless you, my son." When he returned the 1,100 shekels of silver to his mother, she said, "I solemnly consecrate my silver to the Lord for my son to make a carved image and a cast idol. I will give it back to you." So after he returned the silver to his mother, she took 200 shekels of silver and gave them to the silversmith, who made them into a carved image and a cast idol. And they were put in Micah's house. Now Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and some household gods and installed one of his sons as his priest. In those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. A young Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, who had been living within the clan of Judah, left that town in search of some other place to stay. On his way, he came to Micah's house in the hill country of Ephraim. Micah asked him, "Where are you from?" "I am a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah," he said, "and I am looking for a place to stay." Then Micah said to him, "Live with me and be my father and priest, and I'll give you 10 shekels of silver a year, your clothes and your food." So the Levite agreed to live with him, and the young man became like one of his sons to him. Then Micah installed the Levite, and the young man became his priest and lived in Micah's house. And Micah said, "Now I know that the Lord will be good to me, since this Levite has become my priest." In this chapter, Micah, a man from the hill country of Ephraim, steals 1,100 shekels of silver from his mother. After confessing, his mother consecrates the money to the Lord and has a silversmith make an idol and a carved image. Micah installs his son as a priest and creates a shrine, despite the fact that such actions were forbidden by God. Later, a Levite from Bethlehem, looking for a place to stay, agrees to become Micah's priest in exchange for food, money, and shelter. Micah believes that having a Levite as his priest will bring God's favor. The chapter illustrates the spiritual decline and idolatry in Israel, as the people act according to their own desires in the absence of a king. Chapter 18, the Danites settle in Laish. In those days, Israel had no king, and in those days the tribe of the Danites was seeking a place of their own where they might settle, because they had not yet come into an inheritance among the tribes of Israel. So the Danites sent 5 of their leading men from Zorah and Eshtaol to spy out the land and explore it. They told them, "Go explore the land." The men entered the hill country of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah, where they spent the night. When they were near Micah's house, they recognized the voice of the young Levite. So they turned in there and asked him, "Who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? Why are you here?" He told them what Micah had done for him and that he had hired him as his priest. Then they said to him, "Please inquire of God to learn whether our journey will be successful." The priest answered them, "Go in peace. Your journey has the Lord's approval." So the 5 men left and came to Laish, where they saw that the people were living in safety, like the Sidonians, at peace and secure. And there was no one to rescue them from the hands of the Sidonians, and they were far from the Sidonians and had no relationship with anyone else. When they returned to Zorah and Eshtaol, their fellow Danites asked them, "How did you find things?" They answered, "Come on, let's attack them. We have seen the land, and it is very good. Aren't you going to do something? Don't hesitate to go there and take it over. When you get there, you will find an unsuspecting people living in a spacious land that God has put into our hands, a land that lacks nothing whatever." Then 600 men of the Danites, armed for battle, set out from Zorah and Eshtaol. On their way, they set up camp near Kiriath Jearim in Judah. This is why the place west of Kiriath Jearim is called Mahane Dan to this day. From there they moved on to the hill country of Ephraim and came to Micah's house. Then the 5 men who had spied out the land of Laish said to their fellow Danites, "Do you know that one of the houses of Micah has an ephod, some household gods, and an image overlaid with silver? Now you know what to do." So they turned in there and went to the house of the young Levite at Micah's place and greeted him. The 600 Danites, armed for battle, stood at the entrance of the gate. The 5 men who had spied out the land went inside and took the carved image, the ephod, the household gods, and the image overlaid with silver. The priest said to them, "What are you doing?" They answered him, "Be quiet. Don't say a word. Come with us and be our father and priest. Is it better that you serve one man's household, or that you become priest to a tribe and clan in Israel?" The priest was very pleased. He took the ephod, the household gods, and the carved image, and went along with the people. Putting their little children, their livestock, and their possessions in front of them, they turned away and left. When they had gone some distance from Micah's house, the men who lived near Micah were called together and overtook the Danites. As they shouted after them, the Danites turned and said to Micah, "What's the matter with you that you called out your men to fight?" He replied, "You took the gods I made and my priest and went away. What else do I have? How can you ask, 'What's the matter with you?'" The Danites answered, "Do not argue with us, or some hot-tempered men will attack you, and you and your family will lose your lives." So the Danites went their way, and Micah, seeing that they were too strong for him, turned around and went back home. Then they took what Micah had made and his priest and went to Laish, to a people at peace and secure. They attacked them with the sword and burned down their city. There was no one to rescue them because they lived a long way from Sidon and had no relationship with anyone. It was in the valley near Beth Rehob. The Danites rebuilt the city and settled there. They named it Dan after their ancestor Dan, who was born to Israel, though the city used to be called Laish. There the Danites set up for themselves the idol, and Jonathan, son of Gershom, the son of Moses, and his sons were priests for the tribe of Dan until the time of the captivity of the land. They continued to use the idol Micah had made all the time the house of God was in Shiloh. In chapter 18, the tribe of Dan sends spies to find a place to settle. They come across the peaceful city of Laish and decide to conquer it. On their way, they pass by Micah's house, where they steal his idol and recruit his priest. With their new priest and stolen gods, they attack Laish, a city of unsuspecting people, and burn it down. They rename the city Dan and set up the stolen idol for themselves. This chapter highlights the Danites' disobedience and idolatry, as they seek their own gain without regard for God's commands. It also shows the moral decay of the people of Israel as they repeatedly ignore God's instructions in favor of their own desires. Chapter 19, the Levite and his concubine. In those days, Israel had no king. A Levite who lived in a remote area of the hill country of Ephraim took a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah, but she was unfaithful to him. She left him and went back to her parents' home in Bethlehem, Judah. After she had been there 4 months, her husband went to her to persuade her to return. He took his servant and 2 donkeys along with him. When he reached her house, her father saw him and welcomed him. His father-in-law, the girl's father, prevailed upon him to stay, so he remained with him for 3 days, eating and drinking and sleeping there. On the 4th day, they got up early and prepared to leave. But the woman's father said to his son-in-law, "Refresh yourself with something to eat, then you can go." So the 2 of them sat down to eat and drink together. Afterward, the woman's father said, "Please stay tonight and enjoy yourself." And when the man got up to go, his father-in-law persuaded him, so he stayed there that night. On the morning of the 5th day, when he rose to go, The woman's father said, "Refresh yourself. Wait until afternoon." So the two of them ate together. Then when the man, his concubine, and his servant got up to leave, his father-in-law, the woman's father, said, "Now look, it is almost evening. Spend the night. The day is nearly over. Stay here and enjoy yourself, and tomorrow you can get up early and be on your way home." But the man did not want to stay another night. However, his father-in-law pressed him, and he spent the night there. On the evening of the 6th day, as the man and his servant were leaving the city, they reached Jebus, that is, Jerusalem. The man had with him a pair of donkeys saddled, and his concubine was with him. When they were near Jebus and the day was almost gone, the servant said to his master, "Come, let's stop at this city of the Jebusites and spend the night." His master replied, "No, we won't go into any city whose people are not Israelites. We will go on to Gibeah." He added one, "Come, let's try to reach Gibeah or Ramah and spend the night in one of those places." So they went on, and the sun set as they neared Gibeah in Benjamin. There they stopped to spend the night. They went and sat in the city square, but no one took them in for the night. That evening, an old man from the hill country of Ephraim, who was living in Gibeah, came in from his work in the fields. When he looked and saw the traveler in the city square, the old man asked, "Where are you going? Where did you come from?" The Levite answered, "We are on our way from Bethlehem in Judah to a remote area in the hill country of Ephraim, where I live. I have been to Bethlehem in Judah, and now I am going to the house of the Lord. No one has taken me in for the night. We have both straw and fodder for our donkeys, and bread and wine for ourselves. Your servants, me, my concubine, and the young man with us, we don't need anything." "You are welcome at my house," the old man said. "Let me supply whatever you need. Only don't spend the night in the square." So he took him into his house and fed his donkeys. After they had washed their feet, they had something to eat and drink. While they were enjoying themselves, some of the wicked men of the city surrounded the house. They pounded on the door and shouted to the old man who owned the house, "Bring out the man who came to your house so we can have sex with him." The owner of the house went outside and said to them, "No, my friends, don't be so vile. Since this man is my guest, don't do this outrageous thing. Look, here is my virgin daughter and his concubine. I will bring them out to you now, and you can use them and do to them whatever you wish. But as for this man, don't do such an awful thing." But the men would not listen to him. So the man took his concubine and sent her outside to them. And they raped her and abused her throughout the night, and at dawn they let her go. At daybreak, the woman went back to the house where her master was staying and fell down at the door and lay there until daylight. When her master got up in the morning and opened the door of the house and stepped out to continue on his way, there lay his concubine, fallen in the doorway of the house, with her hands on the threshold. He said to her, "Get up, let's go." But there was no answer. Then the man put her on his donkey and set out for home. When he reached home, he took a knife and cut up his concubine, limb by limb, into 12 parts and sent them into all the areas of Israel. Everyone who saw it said, "Such a thing has never been done or seen, not since the day the Israelites came up out of Egypt. Think about it. Consider it. Tell us what to do." In this chapter, a Levite and his concubine travel from Bethlehem to the hill country of Ephraim. After receiving hospitality from an old man in Gibeah, a city in the tribe of Benjamin, the Levite's concubine is brutally abused and raped by the men of the city. The Levite finds his concubine dead the next morning, and in a desperate act, dismembers her body and sends the parts to the 12 tribes of Israel to show the horror of what happened. This chapter sets the stage for a great crisis in Israel, highlighting the moral and spiritual decay in the nation during a time when everyone did as they saw fit in the absence of a king. Chapter 20, the war against the tribe of Benjamin. Then all Israel from Dan to Beersheba and from the land of Gilead came together as one and assembled before the Lord in Mizpah. The leaders of all the people of the tribes of Israel took their places in the assembly of God's people, 400,000 soldiers armed with swords. The Benjaminites heard that the Israelites had gone up to Mizpah. Then the Israelites said, "Tell us how this awful thing happened." So the Levite, the husband of the woman who had been murdered, said, I and my concubine came to Gibeah in Benjamin to spend the night. During the night, the men of Gibeah came after me and surrounded the house, intending to kill me. They raped my concubine, and she died. I took my concubine, cut her into pieces, and sent one piece to each region of Israel's inheritance, because they committed this lewd and disgraceful act in Israel. Now all you Israelites, speak up and tell me what you have decided to do." All the people rose as one man, saying, "None of us will go home. No, not one of us will return to his house. But now this is what we'll do to Gibeah. We'll go up against it as the lot directs. We'll take 10 men out of every 100 from all the tribes of Israel, and 100 from every 1,000 and 1,000 from every 10,000 to get provisions for the army. Then when the army arrives at Gibeah in Benjamin, it will give them what they deserve for this outrageous act done in Israel." So all the Israelites got together and united as one man against the city. The tribes of Israel sent men throughout the tribe of Benjamin, saying, "What about this awful crime that was committed among you? Now turn those wicked men of Gibeah over to us, so that we may put them to death and purge the evil from Israel." But the Benjaminites would not listen to their fellow Israelites. From their towns they came together at Gibeah to fight against the Israelites. At once the Benjaminites mobilized 26,000 swordsmen from their towns, in addition to 700 able young men from those living in Gibeah. Among all these soldiers there were 700 chosen men who were left-handed, each of whom could sling a stone at a hare and not miss. Israel, apart from Benjamin, mustered 400,000 swordsmen, all of them fit for battle. The Israelites went up to Bethel and inquired of God. They said, "Who of us shall go up first to fight against the Benjaminites?" The Lord replied, "Judah shall go first." The Israelites rose in the morning and encamped near Gibeah. The men of Israel went out to fight the Benjaminites and took up battle positions against them at Gibeah. The Benjaminites came out of Gibeah and cut down 22,000 Israelites on the battlefield that day. But the Israelites encouraged one another and again took up their positions where they had stationed themselves the first day. The Israelites went up and wept before the Lord until evening, and they inquired of the Lord. They said, "Shall we go up again to fight against the Benjaminites, our fellow Israelites?" The Lord answered, "Go up against them." Then the Israelites drew near to Benjamin the second day. This time when the Benjaminites came out from Gibeah to oppose them, they struck down another 18,000 Israelites, all of them armed with swords. Then all the Israelites, the whole army, went up to Bethel, and there they sat weeping before the Lord. They fasted that day until evening and presented burnt offerings and fellowship offerings to the Lord. And the Israelites inquired of the Lord. In those days the ark of the covenant of God was there, and Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, ministered before it. They asked, "Shall we go up again to fight against the Benjaminites, our fellow Israelites, or not?" The Lord responded, "Go, for tomorrow I will give them into your hands." Then Israel set an ambush around Gibeah. They went up against the Benjaminites on the third day and took up positions against Gibeah as they had done before. The Benjaminites came out to meet them and were drawn away from the city. They began to inflict casualties on the Israelites as before, so that about 30 Israelites fell in the open field and on the roads, the one leading to Bethel and the other to Gibeah. While the Benjaminites were saying, "We are defeating them as before," the Israelites were saying, "Let's retreat and draw them away from the city to the roads." All the men of Israel moved from their places and took up positions at Baal Tamar, and the Israelite ambush charged out of its place on the west of Gibeah. Then 10,000 of Israel's able young men made a frontal attack on Gibeah. The fighting was so heavy that the Benjaminites did not realize how near disaster was. The Lord defeated Benjamin before Israel, and on that day the Israelites struck down 25,100 Benjaminites, all armed with swords. Then the Benjaminites saw that they were beaten. Now the men of Israel had given way to Benjamin, because they had relied on the ambush they had set near Gibeah. The men of Israel turned on the Benjaminites and killed them as they fled along the roads. They cut down the Benjaminites who were in the cities and the open fields, as well as the roads to Gibeah. And the Israelites had gathered all the men of Benjamin who were fleeing to the rock of Rimmon. They captured the town and killed the people. They burned the city of Gibeah and the surrounding towns. In chapter 20, the Israelites, angered by the crime committed in Gibeah, seek justice against the tribe of Benjamin. After an initial defeat and 2 more failed attempts, the Israelites finally gained victory over Benjamin, killing 25,100 men. The chapter highlights the extreme consequences of sin within Israel and the devastating civil war between the tribes. The conflict ends with the tribe of Benjamin nearly wiped out, and the Israelites face the heavy cost of justice, signaling the destructive consequences of disobedience and civil strife. Chapter 21. The revenge on the tribe of Benjamin. The men of Israel had taken an oath at Mizpah. Not one of us will give his daughter in marriage to a Benjamite. The people went to Bethel, where they sat before God until evening, raising their voices and weeping bitterly. "Lord, the God of Israel," they cried, "why has this happened to Israel? Why should one tribe be missing from Israel today?" Early the next day, the people built an altar and presented burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. Then the Israelites asked, "Who from all the tribes of Israel has failed to assemble before the Lord?" For they had taken a solemn oath that anyone who did not come up to the assembly at Mizpah was to be put to death. Now the Israelites grieved for their fellow Israelites, Benjamin. "Today one tribe is cut off from Israel," they said. "How can we provide wives for those who are left, since we have taken an oath by the Lord not to give them any of our daughters in marriage?" Then they asked, "Which one of the tribes of Israel failed to come up to Mizpah to face the Lord?" They discovered that no one from Jabesh-Gilead had come to the camp for the assembly. For when they counted the people, they found that none of the people of Jabesh-Gilead were there. So the assembly sent 12,000 fighting men with instructions to go to Jabesh-Gilead and put to the sword those living there, including the women and children. "This is what you are to do," they said. "Kill every male and every woman who is not a virgin." They found 400 young women who had never slept with a man, and they took them to the camp at Shiloh in Canaan. Then the whole assembly sent an offer of peace to the Benjaminites at the rock of Rimmon. So the Benjaminites returned at that time and were given the women of Jabesh-Gilead, but there were not enough women for all of them. The people grieved for Benjamin because the Lord had made a gap in the tribes of Israel. And the elders of the assembly said, "With the women of Benjamin destroyed and the men left without wives, what are we going to do for the survivors?" They answered, "There must be heirs for the survivors, so that a tribe of Israel will not be wiped out. We can't give them our daughters as wives, since we Israelites have taken this oath. Cursed be anyone who gives a wife to a Benjaminite." Then they thought, "Let's see if there is any family of Israel who did not come to the assembly at Mizpah. If they did not come to the assembly, they could be made to provide wives for the Benjaminites." When they counted the people, they found that no one from Jabesh-Gilead had come to the camp. So the assembly sent 12,000 of their best men to Jabesh-Gilead, with orders to kill everyone except the young virgins. Then they gave the women of Jabesh-Gilead to the Benjaminites. The remaining men of Benjamin then returned to their homes, and the people of Israel were now at peace. In chapter 21, the Israelites are in deep distress over the near extinction of the tribe of Benjamin, following their punishment for the crime in Gibeah. They regret their oath not to give their daughters in marriage to the Benjaminites and seek a solution. They find that the people of Jabesh-Gilead did not participate in the assembly and decide to punish them by taking their women to give to the Benjaminites. Despite this, there are still not enough women for all the Benjaminites. So the Israelites devise a plan to allow the Benjaminites to take women from Shiloh during a religious festival. The chapter ends with the tribe of Benjamin restored, but the moral chaos in Israel during this period is evident. The book of Judges ends on a somber note, showing the moral and spiritual decay of Israel during a time when everyone did as they saw fit. The tribe of Benjamin is nearly wiped out, and Israel's internal strife and disobedience are evident in the decisions made to resolve conflicts. This final chapter underscores the need for a king and a unified leadership to restore order and guide the people of Israel according to God's will. The period of the Judges is marked by cycles of sin, repentance, and deliverance, revealing the consequences of Israel's disobedience and the mercy of God. It serves as a powerful reminder that without divine leadership, a nation can fall into chaos and confusion. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the book of Judges. As we've seen, The story of Israel in this period serves as both a cautionary tale and a testament to God's ongoing faithfulness. Be sure to subscribe to Jesus Leads for more Bible journeys, reflections, and teachings. May you continue to seek wisdom, obedience, and God's guidance in all areas of your life. Until next time, may the Lord bless and keep you always.